In order to protect their daughter, her parents imprisoned her in a machine which is less than 10 square meters. Even when they delivered supplies to her every day, they would stay far away and could not have any contact with her. Because her daughter had suffered from septicemia since she was a child, she could only breathe the air filtered by the chemical chamber. She thought she would stay in this big coffin for the rest of her life, but she never expected that the chemical chamber would suddenly light up one day. What was even more terrifying was that they found through the glass that a yellow air flow suddenly gushed out on the street. These air currents were discharged from the city's sewer pipes. Those who accidentally inhaled them all fell to the ground. The father who was on the street was confused, but before he could take 2 steps, he saw a larger air current rushing towards him. It only took him a moment to realize that the street in front of him was in chaos. The man also ran home desperately. After returning home, he hurriedly pulled his wife away from the window. The next second, the poisonous gas instantly broke through the window. Moreover, they penetrated directly into every hole. The gas seeped into the house through the cracks. Fortunately, the daughter was protected by the purification chamber. The man turned it to power-saving mode and quickly pulled his wife away. Seeing the poisonous gas rushing upstairs, they could only run to higher floors. Finally, the couple came to the top floor. The family was a kind old couple who let them in without any embarrassment. The mother quickly took out the intercom to ask about her daughter's situation. After knowing that everything was fine, they breathed a sigh of relief. Then several people came to the balcony and looked at the terrible scene under their feet. They were speechless, but this was not the most terrible thing. Then the man climbed onto the roof and looked around. He saw that the whole city was shrouded in poisonous fog. It looked like a fairyland on earth, but it was full of murderous intentions. Moreover, the poisonous fog caused the whole city to lose power. Although the girl was fine in the purification warehouse, the backup battery could not hold it at all. So the man was ready to hold his breath, and went downstairs but failed. After he came to the corridor to change the battery, he tentatively stirred up a wisp of smoke. Although the gas was colorless and odorless, it was indeed poisonous. It would water pipe. Just as he was about to enter the poisonous fog, the man took a deep breath. Then he held his breath for a while and arrived at the target. After breaking the window on the first floor, he successfully entered the old man's house. Just as he was about to search, he saw a person lying on the ground. The man quickly walked forward and found that it was the neighbor old man, but he was no longer breathing. The man had no time to get nervous because he was about to give up. What was worse was that the old man's oxygen cylinder, which he usually carried with him, was not nearby at this time. The man hurriedly took out a flashlight and searched everywhere. However, he couldn't find the person after searching the house all over. Just when the man was about to suffocate, he finally found an oxygen cylinder in a corner. He didn't dare to delay and quickly put on the oxygen mask. Then he quickly unscrewed the valve and finally breathed in oxygen at the last moment. After he calmed down and waited for him to fill the extra oxygen cylinder, he was about to leave when he suddenly heard a sound from the bedroom. Driven by curiosity, the man raised a hammer and opened the valve. Only then did he find that it was a puppy. But strangely, the puppy was not only fine, but also I was particularly excited. Could it be that animals were drowned by the poison gas? But the screen I saw soon denied this inference because the mother dog in the room died. Although he was suspicious, the man didn't have time to think about it. He came home and successfully replaced the spare battery for his daughter. He also brought some daily necessities to find more spare batteries. Then he went downstairs and saw that the quiet street was unbalanced. Seeing them foaming at the mouth and dying miserably, the man unconsciously covered his mouth tightly. Oxygen mask. Then he got under the car and collected a lot of spare batteries. Just as the man was about to leave, he suddenly heard a whistle. She walked over curiously and saw a large team passing by. The man went up to ask and found out that they were sent by the army to transfer the survivors. Now the whole city has fallen, and the upper management has decided to search and rescue. While talking, the captain saw that the oxygen cylinder the man brought was deflated, and he took out a pure oxygen cylinder and replaced it for him. Then he called the man to quickly catch up with the main force, but the man could not leave because his family was still here. The captain had no choice but to turn around and leave. At this time, the man called the captain again and asked for another set of oxygen equipment. He also told him about his daughter's illness. Although the equipment was extremely expensive, the captain finally gave him another set. After returning, the man was terrified. They found that the level of poison gas was still rising gradually. If they continued to stay here, they would be poisoned sooner or later. They had to take their daughter away from here. The daughter could only get out by wearing a space suit. But the space suit was far away in the laboratory in the city center. But at this time, the couple decided to take the risk to find the space suit. When they learned that their parents were going to the city center, the daughter asked them to go and see their friend. The friend also suffered from failure syndrome like her, and her parents were not at home all year round. They decisively refused their daughter's request because now in this situation, everyone is in danger. They have no obligation to help other people's children. Mom, if that's the case, wouldn't you be willing to let your parents do it for me? The couple was helpless, but finally agreed to let their daughter stop by to take a look. But strangely, when they arrived at Nankai's house, they found that there was no one inside. Because the oxygen was almost running out, the two of them. There was no time to think about it. They quickly arrived at the laboratory and found the space suit. They were about to leave with the box when the laboratory exploded. Fortunately, they woke up soon, but the man suddenly felt short of breath. He found that the oxygen tube was broken. Now there was only one oxygen bottle. The couple could only take turns to use it and carry the heavy space suit. They walked and stopped all the way. I don't know how long it took before they reached the top. What was even worse was that the oxygen tank was running out. If this continued, both of them would die here. So the man decided to let his wife go back first, and he would find a way to go home later. The wife was very reluctant to leave because she knew that without the oxygen tank, her husband was in a critical condition, but when she thought of her daughter at home, she still held back her tears and left. However, she never thought that this farewell would be forever. In order to save oxygen, the wife ran wildly in the street, but the oxygen still didn't last until she got home. Time was urgent, so she quickly took off the oxygen tank and then he held his breath and dragged the box to the top floor with great difficulty. Fortunately, he finally got back. But he never expected that the scene he saw next made him feel more scared than being in the poisonous gas. The explosion had burned a big hole in the space suit. After working for a long time, it was all in vain. The woman was extremely desperate. On the other side, the man was still rushing home along the roof, but he saw a dead person on a rooftop. There was a long bloodstain, which was obviously someone who had been killed. The man took a look at the bloodstain and walked inside. Sure enough, there were signs of someone living inside. In addition to supplies, there was even an oxygen tank. He looked around again to confirm that there was a dead person nearby. After he saw no one, he directly carried the oxygen bottle on his back and prepared to use it to go back. But before he walked out of the door, a man in police uniform came in and warned him to put down the oxygen bottle. The man saw through it and realized that the oxygen bottle was not his at all. The policeman had snatched it with the weapon in his hand. He even killed the man for it. Now that he was exposed, the policeman decided not to hit him. His right hand slowly reached for his gun. Unexpectedly, this scene was seen by the man who had been prepared. He put on an oxygen mask and pushed the policeman down the poison building. Then the two of them wrestled with each other. At this time, the pistol accidentally fell to the ground. The policeman wanted to get the gun, but the man hugged him tightly from behind. The baby without the oxygen mask was not alive in 3 seconds. He was legal. The man didn't fear, and her daughter's evolution chamber was about to run out. Her husband was not at home. She lost her mind for a moment, but after a while, she saw that her husband had not returned yet. She decided to take the risk and change the battery for her daughter. Seeing the deadly poisonous gas in the corridor, the woman took a deep breath and then went into the poisonous gas without hesitation. She ran very fast, but no matter how fast she ran, she could not outrun the pervasive poisonous gas. When she saw her mother coming down, she did not wear an oxygen mask. The daughter was extremely anxious in the evolution chamber, but the mother didn't have time to explain to her. She quickly replaced the spare battery for the evolution chamber. When she saw the light, she felt relieved. But when she was about to leave, the woman seemed to have a premonition of something. Instead, she was not in a hurry to go upstairs and began to look deeply at her baby daughter. Finally, under the constant urging of her daughter, the mother was reluctant to leave. It was unknown how long it took before the man finally opened it. However, looking at the screen in heavy oxygen mask, he looked at his wife, who had long since stopped breathing, lying in the corridor. She could no longer hold back. However, the dead are gone, and the living must be strong. Unexpectedly, before the man could cheer up, his daughter's voice came from the intercom. The man knew that he couldn't hide it, and he also understood that this matter must be said by himself. The words came to his lips, but he was reluctant to speak because he didn't want to admit that his wife had left. Finally, the man went to the balcony and told his daughter the news of the death. After hearing it, the daughter curled up in the corner silently and didn't say a word. For the first time, she felt that she was a burden. Not long after, a slight earthquake suddenly occurred at home. It was originally just a slowly rising poisonous gas. At this time, it began to rise sharply. Soon, this place would fall completely. The man decided to go out again to try his luck and see if he could find a few more protective suits for the two. The old man smiled and shook his head because their lifespan was not much, and they did not want to waste the resources of the young. Finally, she took the hand of her demented husband and leisurely set off. Do you really think that you and I have lived a wonderful life? If there are many real things in the world, it is the best life I have lived with you. The man on this side was lucky to find a top-level protective suit in a truck. Wei's daughter was worried that she would cause a fire again if she rushed back too late. She was on the road. I found an e-donkey and drove back. The visibility in the poisonous gas was extremely low, and the man was driving very fast. The next second, a little boy suddenly jumped out. The man was unable to dodge and was thrown away. Unexpectedly, his head hit the iron barrel. Then he fainted. When he woke up, he didn't know how long it had been. He limped along with the walkie-talkie and called his daughter, but there was no sound from the daughter opposite. When he thought that his daughter might have died tragically at home, the man's legs went weak and he couldn't take a step forward. He was determined not to go out. He leaned against the car, ready to wait for death, but suddenly he saw two figures walking in the white fog. The man stood up in disbelief, and the next scene seemed like a dream. He saw his daughter running towards him alive and kicking. It turned out that the purification chamber of the friend he was looking for had run out of power. He never thought that he would find out that their symptoms were immune to poisonous gas. The man was very happy after hearing this, but the next second he took off his oxygen mask. What is Dad doing? The man kissed his daughter on the cheek for the first time while she was puzzled. The funny thing was that when he woke up again, he found that he and his daughter had exchanged identities. This time, he was the one lying in the purification chamber, and his daughter was moving freely. Like, share, and subscribe.